Chapter 2 of the Golden Compass. Okay, my thoughts, guys. First off, the Chapter 2 title that we've got, The Idea of North. The Idea of North. Capital N, North. We're going to get back to that one because that's important. How you capitalize a letter adds importance, and we'll get to that. Okay, so what this chapter really gets into in this meeting in the retiring room that Lyra is witnessing while she's hiding in the closet, and she right off we basically get this Lord Asriel kind of casually going over that the wine is spilled. He's not letting on that he knows it was poisoned, although he does. We get this wonderful presentation with all these important guys in the room, and they all have great titles and stuff. What we need to take away from that is Lyra has now, by witnessing this meeting, this seems normal stuff for these people in the room, for Lord Asriel and all these scholars and the master, right? But for Lyra, this is new, and this is a world of high political intrigue, right? We have a lot of important people talking about whatever it is. It might be confusing to us, but it's obviously very important, and Lyra's going to pick that up. These are important people talking about important things, and because in that great kind of reveal, Lord Asriel pulls out the head of this scientist, this missing scientist. Like, here, I got brought back his head. It's life or death. It's not just high political intrigue, but we have life or death matters here. It's pretty interesting. Now, one of the interesting things is on page 19, he says, I set out for the North, capital N. I'll get back to that North, right? The idea of North, capital N. I set out for the North, capital N. And what he does on page 21, he says, when they talk about this picture in the sky of these lights in the northern lights, they say, what is that? Is that moonlight? And he says, no, it's dust. But notice he says it's dust, capital D. And right away, Lyra figures, okay, they're not talking about like dust on, that we clean, lowercase d, capital D. So because he says it's dust, and all the guys are like, oh man, obviously dust is a big word because he capitalizes it. And one of the big things I put on your writing, about 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago now, I started seeing even academic 12s stopped capitalizing names, right? They stopped putting periods at the ends of sentences, and they stopped capitalizing names. I know why now. It's because of cell phones. You don't do that in your texting, but it really struck me. And of course, I got mad at this grade 12 kid, this one kid that didn't capitalize names. He didn't capitalize the first words of sentences. They didn't put periods. And that was a one-off, right? This one kid in my 30-1 classroom. I remember it. And now, honestly, it's about half of my academic 12s. Regularly do not capitalize names. They'll capitalize a first name, but not a last name. They'll capitalize the last name, but not a first name. They don't capitalize the first word of a sentence. And period use is spotty at best. These are academic 12s, and I'm not kidding when I say about half of them I'm writing on papers, capitalize names, put periods at the ends of sentences. That's where we're at now. Why do we capitalize your name? Why do we teach little kids to capitalize their name? It's the same reason dust and north have a capital now, because it gives importance to it. You should capitalize your name because you're important, right? We capitalize Canada because it's important. We capitalize New York City because it's important. Your name gets a capital. So this idea of the North and dust, right away, just by adding that capital D and capital N, gives it weight. So if you go down to Texas, down to Southern America, and they say, where are you from? And you say, North. Oh, I'm from the North. Lowercase n. You say it like that. I'm from North. I'm up North. They'd be like, oh, what do you mean? Alabama? But if you say, I'm from the North, say it with a capital N. Imagine that in your mind when you say it, I'm from the North. All of a sudden it conjures up all these mystical kind of images of snow and polar bears and death, Be like, wow, you live in the North? Yeah. Anyway, so you want to notice about that. That is one little trick you can do in your writing to add weight to a word. Capitalize it. And all of a sudden it adds this whole realm of kind of romance and mystery to it, right? So remember to capitalize your names and be romantic and mysterious. Anyway, the thing that gets interesting here is we get this first whisper of something very sinister. When he shows them the image and there's this kid in the picture, one of the professors says, is that a severed child? Now, severed means to split apart, right? To cut apart. Is that a severed child? Dang. And no, it isn't. But it like that concept, whoa, What are you talking about? How would they even suggest that? That's sinister. So we get these kind of sinister ideas here. Now, the other thing I like is, obviously whatever Grumman was looking into got him killed, it seems. He went missing, right? But Lord Asriel is suggesting that it was murder. And what he finds is this city in the sky. Now, I'm linking a video below this one, and it's Dr. Quantum's double slit experiment video on YouTube. I want you to watch it. It's 6 minutes. You can just fast forward to the 1 minute mark. Watch this video, okay? Because it'll blow your mind. I've seen it 50 times. It still baffles me, okay? This is the mother of all quantum physics experiments, okay? You can watch this video. You can look up the double slit experiment. You'll get hundreds of web pages. You can get videos, and it's amazing. But you watch this, and it'll introduce this idea that this book is dealing with, this idea of multiple universes, right? Parallel universes. In fact, this whole story I told you takes place in a parallel universe. It's kind of like ours, except people have their souls on the outside and names of things are different. They don't they don't use the word electricity. They use the word amberic. Things are kind of similar, but they're different. In this universe, it's revealed that John Calvin became Pope. In our universe, John Calvin was a minister, kind of controversial figure, and was really kind of quiet, silenced a little bit by the church. But in this universe, he became Pope. He was all about, work and prayer and kind of hardcore. So anyway, things are in a parallel universe. You watch that double slit experiment clip that's listed below, and then you're going to show it to your parents, and they're all going to be like, what? Because it's just amazing, right? Proof that there is multiple universes out there. Anyway, so we get this idea, and whatever this multiple universe experiment shows, whatever this theory is in Lyra's world, it's controversial enough to kill over, right? We learn why a little later in that chapter. So the meeting ends, and Lord Asriel is going to go back up north to conduct more experiments, right? And he's going to get funding, and he's going to leave. So he comes into Lyra's life, treats her like garbage, and then leaves. One of the things that's fascinating to me is on page 28, Lyra says, "I want to go with you," right? And he's like, "No, don't. You're not coming, or I'll be angry." Just dismisses her. And this line, "Don't argue anymore, I shall be angry." And his demon growled with a deep, savage rumble that made Lyra suddenly aware of what it would be like to have teeth meeting in her throat. That's incredible. Lyra actually is so physically threatened by Lord Asriel that, the threat of murder is there. So like I said, Lord Asriel's not a nice man. And this is the person that is really her only parent figure, her guardian, Lord Asriel. And this is a guy that scares her so much she thinks of, wow, he could kill me, right? That's incredible. So what we get a lot of in this book is very sinister authority figures. We get the magisterium, this entity, the masters of the teachers at Jordan College. Everyone around Lyra uses authority, right? And the way they control Lyra is how we control a lot of kids. Physical threats, intimidation, commands, deceit in a lot of ways. We control this kid. And Lyra is going to, if you read all 3 books, Lyra is going to change the universe. So anyway, this is amazing. Now, what we get next is this wonderful meeting between the master and the librarian who were talking. And one of the things they mention is, is this persecution. They're talking about these entities involved. And on page 29, they say, is that the oblation board? Oblation board, if you know what the word means, that should really freak you out, because the word oblate means sacrifice. So the Mayans, when they sacrificed people to the sun and all the gods, they called them oblates, right? So oblate means sacrifice. So the fact that this magisterium, this political entity that is kind of the authority in Lyra's world, has something on it called the oblation board, right? So there's some foreshadowing with something quite sinister. Anyway, one of the things that is interesting is that the master and the librarian start talking about this multiple universe theory, and the magisterium is teaching that there are 2 worlds. The world of, this world, and then the spiritual world, like the afterlife, right? of course, so if there's proof that there's multiple universes, then that would go against their teachings. Of course, in our universe, the Catholic Church, the Christian Church have no problem with multi-universes. Like it's fine. They didn't. Well, there was some controversy in the beginning, a long time ago, but now it's just accepted as fine. But in this universe, that would be really a big problem. And they keep talking about Dustin, and particularly they talk about Lyra, and that she has a part to play. And they say that the alethiometer says that she has a big part to play. Now, if you know what a alethiometer means, that's really interesting, because meter just means measure, right? A thermometer, whatever, right? Meter means measure. That's just what the Latin word means. But alethio means truth. So an alethiometer must be a truth meter. And whatever the master's talking about, he says this alethiometer, this truth meter, which turns out to be this thing, the golden, says that Lyra's got a part to play in all of this intrigue, this little girl. And what's really fascinating is that she's going to, a betrayal is going to be involved. And what a dun-dun-dun moment on page 32. Because of what she experienced, because of what she must experience, part of that includes a great betrayal. And the librarian says, well, who's going to betray her? No. That's the saddest thing. She will be the betrayer, and the experience will be terrible. But she mustn't know that. So Lyra is going to be a great betrayer. But she can't know that. The minute she finds out that she's going to do that, she won't do it. But she's going to be this great betrayer. Now, what I want to bring you back to is the start of the book, before chapter 1. You look at this poem. This is interesting. This is from John Milton's Paradise Lost. This is a poem. It's not a... Some people look at it as view it as a religious text, but not really. It's a story written by a poet, one of the great classics of the English language, it's considered. But what's fascinating about it is this poem is about Satan. So you start a children's fiction book off with a poem where the protagonist is Satan. But Paradise Lost, I'll simplify it a lot, is the story of Adam and Eve, but it's the story of Satan coming down from being cast down into the abyss, which is hell, and he kind of comes up and he ends up in the Garden of Eden, and eventually I'm condensing this massive poem, but he turns into a snake. He knows he can't go back up to heaven and fight God because God will just wipe him out. So he says, I'll corrupt his creations, and he sneaks into Eden, turns into a snake, and then he corrupts them. Right? You might have heard the story of the Garden of Eden. But why is he starting a children's fiction book with the story where the protagonist is Satan? Now, Satan is known as the great betrayer. Right? He betrayed God, and he gathered the angels in this war, right? And then you've got this reference in chapter 2 that Lyra is going to be a great betrayer. Are we about to get a story where the protagonist is what? Are they saying that she's like Lucifer? It's fascinating. And I'm going to, I don't want to spoil it, but wow, right? Like, what? So it's awesome. This is the moment in Paradise Lost when kind of Satan lands in this abyss and it's dark and he's the head angel and all the other angels are crying. They're like, oh God, we got cast out. And Satan's like, calm down, fellas. He takes charge like, I got this. And he contemplates his voyage of getting back on how it's fantastic. But wow, right? So Lyra is going to be this great betrayer. So we have authority, we have political intrigue, we have multiple universes. Watch that quantum double slit experiment and then get ready to just, man, that blows my mind. And all of this in chapter 2. And Lyra's along for the ride, right? And it looks like no matter what she does, she's going to be changing the world. So this is fantastic. All right, I'll have another video on chapter 3 in a minute. Good luck.